Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop one in the live chat, and then we can get today's stream started. And as I'm waiting for the ones to come into the chat, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does is that it helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get their notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you're one of those ghost watchers who always watch my videos but never subscribe, please do me a favor and yourself a favor and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button to be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure to share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, it does help to give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And lastly, make sure you follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below. It'll be pinned in the comment section after the stream is over. And if I remember to, it should be pinned in the live chat right now. That's if I remember to. And with the introduction out of the way, and I can see that you guys can hear and see me clearly, let's get into today's stream. Today, we're going to be discussing the Hunter Biden gun charges, right? The federal gun charges, the trial that's been going on this entire week. And I just wanted to take a moment to get everyone caught up with everything that has gone on, everyone who has testified, and just get a good feel of how things are going so far, because I am interested to see where things are going to go with this once the trial actually wraps up. And I just wanted to keep you all abreast to what was going on with that trial as well. So let's jump right into it. What's very interesting, when I was titling today's video, right, when I was titling the stream, I have in the title, I believe it's exposed, right? Hunter Biden laptop and his addiction and everything surrounding it exposed. What's interesting is that, like, everything that's exposed, we knew already, right? We knew these things already. If you're familiar with what's on Hunter Biden's laptop, right? But what I appreciate with this trial is that everything that we assumed to be true, that we knew to be true, or that we thought was true, based off of the images and emails and everything of that nature that was on Hunter Biden's laptop, that was once deemed fake news. It was falsely deemed fake news. It was falsely deemed misinformation, but we'll get into that in a minute. Everything that was on there, this trial now proves this stuff to be a fact of the matter, right? This trial proves that everything that we thought and assumed about Hunter is true. So I want to get into that, and we're going to go straight into the trial and things surrounding the laptop first. So I'm going to pull this article up very quickly, and let's jump into this. And shout out to my man Rob for being the first person to contribute to today's show. I appreciate you, Rob, for coming through. Rob said, Hunter Biden's laptop, a Netflix special. I'd watch it. I'd watch it. If somebody made a Netflix special, Hunter Biden's laptop, Netflix special, I would definitely watch it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did get that sometime. I wouldn't say in the near future, maybe about 5 years from now. Right? Maybe about 5 years from now, we might get it. So I guess that's still the near future. Nonetheless, I appreciate your contribution to today's stream, Rob. I appreciate it. Thank you, bro. Let's jump into this because I want to play a very interesting clip afterwards as well surrounding Hunter Biden's laptop and the misinformation surrounding it being fake, because them saying it was fake, the mainstream media saying it was fake, was misinformation. But this article reads here, Hunter Biden gun trial confirms laptop was real all along. And oh yeah, just for the record, when it comes to the name of the drug that Hunter Biden was using, his drug of choice, I will be censoring that and replacing it with the word candy. So if I say candy, don't get thrown off. We're still talking about Hunter's favorite drug of choice. Just letting you know ahead of time. While numerous media outlets and the Department of Justice have previously concluded that the Hunter Biden laptop was real, the trial of the president's son has further confirmed its legitimacy. And to me, I feel that that's very important, that we have all been vindicated in this way. Prosecutors on Tuesday held up the infamous laptop, which Hunter left at a Delaware repair shop in 2019 and was the subject of a bombshell New York Post report in the month before the 2020 election. FBI agent Erica Jensen testified in court. I repeat, FBI agent Erica Jensen testified in court that the agency had verified the laptop as belonging to Hunter through its serial number and records from Apple, CNN reported. The prosecution further shared images from the laptop and Hunter's iCloud account showing him half or fully nude, holding a candy pipe, holding a candy pipe, and with a bong in the background. So he has photos of himself in the full nude, which he does. Those photos are out there, holding candy pipes and bongs, going crazy. On Wednesday, Jensen testified, the FBI agent Jensen. Jensen testified that no tampering had occurred with Hunter's laptop, replying no when asked by the prosecution on redirect if she had seen any evidence of tampering. And that's extremely important as well, because outside of the photos and emails and things of that nature surrounding just his escapades, you could call it, with different women and indulging in candy, right? There's a lot of other allegations that now surround the Biden family, to which why people refer to the Biden family as the Biden crime family as it pertains to dealings overseas, we'll say. Now, we're not going to get too much into that right now because I want to focus in on the case. But once again, if this FBI agent is saying that this laptop has not been tampered with, and it is indeed his laptop, then what does that say to all of the other allegations, we'll say, surrounding the Biden family? It says a lot. It says those things are true, in my opinion. But let's carry on. I want to finish this last sentence out, and then I want to get to a video to connect both, the video and this article together. The laptop's authenticity is important because many in President Joe Biden's camp attempted to discredit the Post's original reporting in October of 2020. Now, there's this video that's been circulating around on social media. And it's a what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? I think it's montage. Is that the word I'm looking for? Where you have a multitude of clips put together. I think it's called a montage, right? And in this montage, if I'm using that word correctly, it's literally 20 minutes, 20 whole minutes of non-stop intentional misinformation put forth by the mainstream media in an attempt to trick us into believing that we were indulging in misinformation by taking Hunter Biden's laptop seriously and saying that this news article from the New York Post is real. This laptop is Hunter Biden's laptop. Everything that's on it is real. The photos are real. The emails are real. Listen to how all these news outlets, and I'm not going to play the whole 20 minutes. This is maybe about 3 minutes out of the whole 20 minutes, right? But just take a moment to listen to how these news outlets were trying to fake us out and tell us that we weren't really seeing and reading all the things that we saw and read as it pertains to emails and pictures that came off this laptop. Look at how they tried to convince us that we were the ones indulging in misinformation when they were the ones indulging and engaging in misinformation the entire time.
Schiff, who said this discussion over Hunter Biden and the story that came out in the New York Post that is highly questionable and dubiously sourced is part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Well, what I can tell you for sure is that Rudy Giuliani was the source of this hard drive and this information for the New York Post story. Also, the intelligence community has been saying repeatedly that Rudy Giuliani is the vehicle for Russian disinformation right now about Hunter Biden and the Bidens. To say that there's no evidence that somehow these emails and text messages or this hard drive is part of a potentially a Russian disinformation campaign doesn't make any sense to me, Hallie.
Hunter Biden story, which we haven't covered as much for journalistic reasons because of the lack of verification. We don't put unverified disinformation on.
It's not every day where you see a head.
You didn't cover it because you're MSNBC, part of the DNC apparatus media wing, and you didn't want Biden to mess around and lose the election. based off of the antics of Hunter Biden. That's why you didn't report on it.
Headline, like former New York City mayor, president's personal lawyer, and longtime friend, White House was warned that Rudy was the target of Russian intelligence operation to feed misinformation to Trump.
My colleagues at the Post reported tonight a pretty explosive story, which is that U.S. intelligence agencies believed that Rudy Giuliani was being worked over by Russian intelligence assets as a conduit to feed misinformation to the president of the United States. Apparently, according to U.S. intelligence, the Russians were onto him and were using Giuliani's interest in Ukraine to feed him misinformation to get to the president and to try to influence the American political process. And that's a big deal.
Serious questions tonight about whether the Russians are using Rudy Giuliani to interfere in the U.S. presidential election. Alex, there are.
As we round this video out, I just want to make sure to add that everyone knew that all these media outlets, they knew that they were the ones lying. They knew the entire time that they were the ones lying. Once again, whenever it comes to the DNC and their media apparatus, any and every time they point the finger at us, you could always rest assured that it's projection. Whatever we're supposedly doing, that's misinformation, disinformation, or just flat out wrong or dangerous for that nature or for that matter, they're the ones actually engaging in it tenfold.
There are fears that what Giuliani is now pushing here in the United States could actually be part of Russia's latest and very massive disinformation campaign in the U.S. presidential election.
Massive indeed, Wolf. We do know that it's a very active Russian campaign. That's according to the U.S. intelligence community, and that Rudy Giuliani already had open contact with a person that the U.S. has called an agent for the Kremlin. Now, we are being told by two people who've been briefed on what the FBI is doing, that they're looking into whether these unverified emails about Hunter Biden that were published earlier this week by the New York Post about his business dealings in Ukraine and China are part of this bigger Russian disinformation effort in the 2020 election. Now, those efforts, according to the intelligence community, are to denigrate the Biden campaign and the former vice president in favor of President Trump.
Once again, they were all lying and they knew that they were lying, right? But we've now been vindicated as far as that goes. Now what I want to dive into is, let's go back into Hunter Biden's case and let's go into some of the testimony that has come out of the trial. Because like I stated in the original live stream, or in the live stream I did about the Hunter Biden trial that was getting ready to be underway, I believe it was Monday when I did a Hunter Biden trial stream, I told you the women were going to fold on him. All the women that he was dealing with, none of them were going to hold him down. Not one of them, especially the one girl who I have nicknamed Hot Girl Zoe. Hot Girl Zoe spilled the beans on everything, even on people who had nothing to do with nothing. Well, I shouldn't say they had nothing to do with nothing, but she was snitching on everybody when she didn't need to. Hot Girl Zoe. We'll get to Hot Girl Zoe in a moment. Well, let's jump into this article right now, man. This article is titled, Hunter Biden used drugs every 20 minutes, became angry, short-tempered on candy, exes say. Yeah, they spilled the beans and they told the truth about Hunter. Let's jump into this, man. Hunter Biden's former wife told jurors the first son's federal gun trial Wednesday that her ex-husband was not himself when he was on candy, but still able to function. I have that highlighted in purple for a reason. But we'll get to that at the end, right? So outside of Hunter Biden's wife, who testified, or ex-wife, I should say, her name is Kathleen Buell, if I'm saying her last name correctly. Another woman who testified as well is Zoe Keston, who I nicknamed Hot Girl Zoe, right? But we're going to get into Buell's testimony first. Buell, who was married to the younger Biden from 1993 through 2017, and was on the witness stand for roughly 25 minutes, recalled the first time she realized Hunter used the addictive street drug. I found a candy pipe on July 3rd of 2015, Buell said of the discovery in their Washington, D.C. residence. In an ashtray on the side of our porch at our home. So the purpose of highlighting this right now is to understand and to establish the fact that, as many of you know, this case surrounds whether or not Hunter Biden knowingly lied on his application when he purchased a firearm, and he filled out the form stating that he's not a drug addict, he's not on drugs. The testimony that we see here from the women that were questioned by the prosecution is to establish the fact that Hunter was on drugs prior to purchasing the gun. He was on drugs after he bought the gun. And with that, he was also on drugs knowingly during the time that he purchased the gun as well, but opted to say, no, I'm not on drugs, right? So all these dates that we're seeing matter concerning when Biden was consuming candy. Okay, let's carry on. Buell continued to say, I went looking for my husband and asked him what it was. He said it was a candy pipe. He acknowledged smoking candy. I was worried, scared, she said. He was not himself. He was angry, short-tempered, acting in ways he hadn't when he was sober. Now, in case you're wondering, this woman right here is Hot Girl Zoe. That's Hot Girl Zoe. And she's the one that we're going to get to shortly, who told on everybody. She told on everybody. She told everything and told on everybody. And you're going to see what I'm talking about in a minute. But we'll get to Zoe in a moment. We'll get to her in a moment. We're going to stick with Hunter Biden's ex-wife for now. Buell, who shares 3 daughters with Hunter, said she started regularly checking the family car for drugs and drug paraphernalia so their children wouldn't find any evidence of their father's abuse or run afoul of the law if pulled over by the police. She kept up the routine from 2015 through 2019. That's important because he purchased the vehicle, he purchased the firearm in October of 2018. So this establishes the length of time in which Hunter Biden was using and addicted to candy, right? And it makes it very hard for the defense to spin this narrative that, well, during the time that he purchased the vehicle, purchased the gun, he wasn't on candy. He wasn't on it when he purchased it. But all the testimony that comes from the women in his life prove otherwise. Now we're going to get to Zoe Keston, who I nickname Hot Girl Zoe. Hot Girl Zoe, a Brooklyn native, testified under the promise of immunity, explained that she met Hunter in December 2017 in a Manhattan gentleman's club where she worked part-time. While Keston and another woman put on a private dance for Hunter for 30 minutes, she recalled the first son opened a sliding door to the private room and smoked candy through it. So while he was enjoying a lap dance, a private dance from Hot Girl Zoe and one of her co-workers, he said, give me just a moment. Give me a moment. Let me slide this door open real quick. Take a quick puff. Okay, let's continue. Right? That's how on it he was. That's how on it he was and how much he needed it and how much he couldn't live without it. Hunter and Keston met up again in January 2018. That's relevant because once again, he purchased a firearm and allegedly lied on the form October of 2018. Hunter and Keston met up again in January 2018 at the Soho Garden Hotel in Manhattan, where they spent 5 days together and where, in her words, Hunter smoked candy every 20 minutes or so. Smoking candy every 20 minutes is crazy. That's wild. He was smoking candy every 20 minutes. Keston said she was a distraction for Hunter and claimed she helped slightly curb his regular use, though she still remembered seeing Biden clean out his candy pipe with chopsticks and or a disassembled pen. And here's where hot girl Zoe lost me. This is where she lost me. Because she's snitching on folks for no reason. And it was right here. As well as buying a ping pong ball size amount of the drug, a ping pong ball size amount of the drug at a Four Seasons hotel from a dealer named Frankie. What Frankie has to do with all this, I don't know. I don't know why hot girl Zoe told on Frankie like that. I don't know why she put his name out there like that. But this is just something for, for you young guys out there and, just guys in general that like to go on these little escapades, with these little hot girls like hot girl Zoe. When the what hits the fan, they're telling on you and they're telling on everybody. There's no loyalty in this at all whatsoever. She told on my man Frankie when she didn't need to tell on him. All she had to say was, we were at the Four Seasons. He bought a ping pong ball size of that hard rock, and that's what he did when we were at the Four Seasons. But she put the man's whole name out there. She told on Frankie. It was unnecessary, and I feel bad for him because he doesn't have nothing to do with nothing at this point in time. She also noted that Hunter used cash for a lot of things. I know a good amount of what he was buying was drugs. She's telling everything. Basically, the whole time that they were together, from the moment she met him up until the time they departed and stopped dealing with one another, all he was doing was smoking candy throughout that entire period and snitching on Frankie. Poor Frankie. Despite the defense, attorney Abby Lowe's claim the day before that there is no such thing as a high functioning candy addict. I'm going to read that again because hot girl Zoe's claim, as well as Hunter Biden's ex-wife's claim that he was a functioning candy head, it flies in the face of what the defense tried to put forward, that if he was on candy at the time of, purchasing the gun, he would have been erratic. He would have been all over the place. He would have been crazy. It would have been obvious and self-evident. What the ex-wife is saying and what hot girl Zoe is about to say contradict what the defense lawyers are trying to say. So I want to go back to the top very quickly, where it reads, I'll just read the purple part, where Hunter Biden's ex-wife said, yeah, he was on candy, but he was still able to function, right? Hot girl Zoe, who told on my man Frankie, said the same thing. Hot girl Zoe said, where are we at? Hot girl Zoe said, despite defense attorney Abby Lowe's claim the day before that there is no such thing as a high functioning candy addict, hot girl Zoe remarked on Hunter's ability to act normal while high. And I quote, I thought to myself, it's crazy his demeanor doesn't seem to be changing. Keston said, I never saw an immediate change in his behavior, which really confused me. So when it came to Hunter using candy, I guess for lack of better words, he was really good at it. He was really good at it. Because apparently, as long as he wasn't around the women that he was using with, as long as he wasn't around them, he was able to function. And he would come off as normal to you and me, despite the fact that he was smoking candy every 20 minutes, according to hot girl Zoe, every 20 minutes. That's very impressive, honestly. That's very impressive. Despite Hunter's apparent normalcy, Keston said she'd seen him lose or break his phone 5 or 6 times in their 9 months together. During one stay at the Four Seasons during New York Fashion Week in February 2018, Hunter spoke about getting clean using a South American treatment called Cambu, in which venom from the Amazon-based giant leaf frog is rubbed on the skin in a bid to curb cravings. Keston had been hopeful that the controversial treatment would work, but she testified that Hunter was still using at their next meetup in early March. Hunter attempted to get clean one more time at the end of their relationship on November 2018. Why is November 2018 highlighted? Because once again, he purchased the gun and allegedly lied on the form in October of 2018. But in November of 2018, he was still using. That means he knowingly, that's the connection that you would logically make. He knowingly lied on that gun form. He was receiving ketamine therapy on Plum Island, Massachusetts. But Keston said he was still getting high and asked her to help him score some nose candy. So this is what's all going on during that period of time. So not only was he just hitting the candy, but he was also indulging in nose candy by November 18th, by November of 2018, right? So now what I want to do is this. What I want to do is that I want to hop over to a video clip surrounding Biden's other girlfriend. And who's his other girlfriend? His other girlfriend is his dead brother's wife. That's who his other girlfriend was, which is something that I still can't get over. I still can't get over the idea of you starting a relationship with your dead brother's wife. That's just unbelievable to me, but let's get into this clip right now.
Federal gun trial resumed today with prosecutors calling their key witness to the stand. The president's son is facing 3 felony charges stemming from his alleged illegal purchase of a firearm in 2018 while he was a drug user. Erica Brown has the details.
The widow of Hunter Biden's late brother, Beau, took the witness stand on day 4 of his federal gun case, testifying under an immunity agreement with prosecutors. Hallie Biden, who began a romantic relationship with...
Notice that to get everybody to testify, they had to put them under an immunity order. Let me see what they said again.
Erica Brown has the details.
The widow of Hunter Biden's late brother, Beau, took the witness stand on day 4 of his federal gun case, testifying under an immunity agreement with prosecutors.
Yeah, everybody's under immunity agreements. All these women are under immunity agreements. I guess theoretically they all could get hit with all type of drug charges, and especially Hunter Biden's former girlfriend, who was his dead brother's wife. She could get hit with a lot of charges too. But they're all under that immunity protection in order to get them to testify against Hunter Biden.
Hallie Biden, who began a romantic relationship with Hunter after Beau's death, detailed how Hunter visited her.
That is so disgusting. I can't get over that.
Gun case, testifying under an immunity agreement with prosecutors. Hallie Biden, who began a romantic relationship with Hunter after Beau's death, detailed how Hunter visited her home in October 2018, appearing to be under the influence. She said she searched his car for drugs and found remnants of drug paraphernalia and the gun in his truck. Fearing he'd hurt himself with it or her kids would hurt themselves, she testified she discarded the firearm in a grocery store dumpster. On Thursday, jurors were shown surveillance video of Hallie doing just that and coming back later that day trying to find the gun. Once Hunter discovered what she had done, asking her, "Are you insane?" Hallie...
I'd be saying the same thing. I'm not going to lie. What would possess you to throw a gun away in a grocery store dumpster? And the video is out there. I'm not going to play it here because I don't have it queued up. But you see her get out the car and just threw it in a trash can. Wasn't even like it was like the giant dumpster where you got to lift up the lid and you throw it in there where there's a bunch of other trash. No, she threw it like in the little small, like the mini trash can that's, on the side of, or in the front of, or in the parking lot of every grocery store. She just dumped it right in there. I'd be looking at her after the fact saying, are you insane too? Like, why would you do that? Are you crazy?
Of Hallie doing just that and coming back later that day trying to find the gun. Once Hunter discovered what she had done, asking her, "Are you insane?" Hallie Biden's testimony is critical to prosecutors as they try to prove President Biden's son illegally purchased and possessed a Colt 38 handgun in 2018. Prosecutors allege Hunter knowingly lied about his drug use on the application to buy the gun. He denies that.
From the prosecution's perspective, that whether or not he was using drugs on the day he purchased the gun, he was illegally using drugs during that time period, both before and after the purchase.
Hunter Biden's defense team argues he did not view himself as an addict when he filled out the form.
And that's what they're kind of riding on right now. The fact that, which is what everybody, any addict, and every addict says this, they would tell you, well, I'm not an addict. I don't have a problem. Any addict, any alcoholic, anybody, they all tell you I don't have a problem. And essentially, Hunter Biden's defense is, well, when he filled out the form, he didn't believe that he was an addict. That's their defense in a nutshell. He didn't believe that he was an addict when he filled out the form. So therefore, he wasn't an addict because he didn't believe that he was. And we're going to get into why that's problematic, shortly, because I have another video clip for that as well. But what I want to do right now is highlight the fact that Hunter, the whole situation with him was so out of control concerning him and his deceased brother's wife, who he formed a relationship with, that he even got her hooked on candy, which is crazy. Outside of the fact it's bad enough that you're dealing with your deceased brother's wife, but on top of that, you got her hooked on candy also. That's crazy work, to say the very least. That's crazy work. But also, as I stated in Monday's stream when I was discussing this case, typically how this works in a situation like this, that's as disgusting as this is, concerning Hunter Biden getting in a relationship with his deceased brother's wife, I always have to make sure to say that we have to put even more blame on his deceased brother's wife, because at least Hunter can rely on the fact that, hey, I was under the influence 24/7. I was hitting the pipe every 20 minutes, according to Hot Girl Zoe. So I wasn't in my right mind. What was on your mind, though? What was on your mind getting into a relationship with Hunter Biden, your brother-in-law, after your husband passed away? Literally months afterwards, also. Months. She didn't even let a year go by. Don't believe me? Here it goes. During the direct examination, Hallie Biden told a federal court that she had become romantic with Hunter in either late 2015 or early 2016, months after Bo's death on May 30th, 2015, from a brain tumor. That's wild. That means this is what you were always looking forward to. That tells me that you low-key couldn't wait for your husband to pass on. And that's disgusting and horrible. Normally, I can't say normally because I don't know this to be a fact, right? But what I would like to believe, and from just the limited personal experience that I have with this, just from knowing people directly or what I've seen on television concerning documentaries, and just thinking to myself, my own mental space as a married man, if my wife were to pass away, seeing somebody else, honestly, that wouldn't even be on my mind at all. Like, I don't even know how you process that and go in that direction after, someone who's as intimately close to you as your wife is passes away. And in a matter of months, you're in a relationship with their brother or sister. That's crazy. Almost any and every time that I've heard of a situation where a significant other passed away, most people have no desire to be in a relationship anymore. at all. It takes years and years and years for them to even feel comfortable about getting into a relationship with somebody, especially if they had children with their significant other. But when it comes to Hallie Biden, a couple months after Bo's death, she was like, all right, Hunter, bring it on. Candy pipe and everything, you know? And, you know, engaging in that type of, as far as I'm concerned, immoral activity. I know, you know, morality is subjective. You know, what's might not be moral to you is moral to me or whatever, right? But as far as I'm concerned, you know, that immoral activity that she engaged in put her in a situation where now she was hooked on candy, where she otherwise wouldn't have been if she wasn't acting in that way. And this is a direct quote from Hallie Biden. I found it, candy, right? She found his candy and Googled it because I didn't know what it was. Hallie said of the first time she saw the substance in her Wilmington home, he told me that it was candy. She further explained that she began using in June of 2018 when the pair were on a trip in California and staying at the Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles. When Wise asked Hallie who had introduced you to candy, the witness was quick with a response. Hunter did. Hunter introduced her to candy. She answered, it was a terrible experience I went through, and I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed. I regret that time in my life. But that's what happens when you engage in, you know, immoral activities. As far as I'm concerned, once again, I know morality and immorality is subjective, and you know, but whatever. She was engaging in immoral behavior, and she got what essentially she deserved for engaging in that. Only a couple months after your husband passed, you jump on top of his brother, his little brother. All right, you get what you get. You know who else jumped on top of Hunter Biden? Hot girl Zoe. There she goes right there. Hot girl Zoe and Hunter on their escapades. Now let's get into Hunter's daughter, right? Because Hunter's daughter actually testified on his behalf. And I guess if you can count on anybody, you can count on Daddy's little girl. Because today, Daddy's little girl came to the rescue. Let's get into this clip right now to see how that went.
Its case.
We rewind it back just a little bit.
Prosecution rested its case against Hunter Biden on federal gun charges. Now the defense is still deciding whether to call Hunter himself to the stand. As Fox's Rebecca Castro reports, it was emotional in the courtroom today with Hunter's daughter, Naomi, testifying in his defense.
Hunter Biden's daughter Naomi said she was nervous while on the stand in his federal gun trial Friday. Her testimony brought her father to tears as she talked about his struggle with addiction. Yet she painted a positive picture of Hunter when she saw him in October 2018, the time he bought the gun at the center of this case. He seemed good and I was hopeful, is what Naomi told the jury, as many legal experts say sympathy is Hunter's only hope for an acquittal.
Every juror says they know someone who struggled with drugs. Yeah. And the combination of that, I think the defense hopes, might get a couple of them to look beyond the evidence.
And I really think, honestly, in my opinion, the more I kind of think about what's happening here concerning this trial, I highly doubt that they're going to convict him, despite all the evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. In between his ex-wife, in between his deceased brother's ex-wife, and in between hot girl Chloe, it's pretty obvious, you know, that he was on and using, I should say, throughout the time period that he purchased the gun and lied on the form, allegedly. That's also not to forget the fact that he admitted to these things in his book. He admitted that in that same time period in his memoir that he was hooked on candy. So he wrote a book about it, saying that, yeah, I was on that stuff during that time period. But we have to remember that this trial is being held in Delaware. Delaware is the state that Joe Biden has been the senator of for what, like the past, I don't know, 40 years, something like that. 4 decades, 3.5 decades, 4 decades. The Biden family pretty much runs all of Delaware. When you walk into the very courtroom that Hunter Biden's trial is in the lobby is a giant portrait of his father as soon as you walk in. And I do think that the defense will be successful at possibly pulling at the heartstrings of the jurors to get them to not convict him out of sympathy. I do see that. I do see that happening. A lot of people have discussed whether or not his father would pardon him if he's convicted and sentenced to jail, to which he could get a 25-year maximum sentence. I don't even think it's going to get that far. I don't think it's going to get that far. I honestly be surprised if he got found guilty because of the fact that this trial is being held in Delaware. Because of that. Now what I want to do is I want to pull this clip up from another news channel that I found very interesting because they're going to draw some parallels in between Hunter Biden's case and Trump's case. And I wanted to speak on that for a moment because Hunter Biden's case really highlights how much of a farce the Trump case was. It really highlights how much of a farce that was when you go into Hunter Biden's case and everything that surrounds it. So let's get into this clip right now.
Filled out the same form.
Rewind it back just a little bit.
Hunter Biden filled out the same form that everybody fills out when purchasing a firearm, and it requires you to basically tell the government, I'm not suffering from an addiction. I'm not using illegal drugs. I don't have an issue that should prevent me from owning a firearm. But it's a self-evaluation. You get to decide what truth you're going to put down on that form, and the defense's argument, it looks to be formed as at the time he signed that document, he wasn't using drugs. If he was using drugs, he wasn't addicted to drugs. And like Daryl just mentioned, addiction is oftentimes thought of as a lifetime condition. Once an addict, there are arguments that you are always an addict. And that obviously would conflict with the idea of being able to own a firearm, use your Second Amendment rights. This issue of drug use, self-disclosure in the acquisition of firearms isn't new. It's just extraordinarily rarely prosecuted. And I feel the defense is going to lean into that this is a allegedly political prosecution where the only reason Hunter Biden is being targeted by the federal government is due to the relations with his father.
On that same note, what would be the best defense of Hunter Biden, in your opinion?
It's the same defense that I wish they had used to defend former President Trump, which is the only reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we are here in this court. The only reason the government has gathered us together is for a purely political motive in operation, and that is the specific selection of this defendant to prosecute a crime that can occur thousands and thousands of other times but is never prosecuted. Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to rewind that again. Concerning Hunter Biden's trial, right, and his crime that he committed.
Purely political motive in operation, and that is the specific selection of this defendant to prosecute a crime that can occur thousands and thousands of other times but is never prosecuted. Ladies and gentlemen, if you feel that that's the way our system should work, I beg you to convict my client. Beg you. But I don't believe in that kind of America. The America that I believe in, we treat everybody the same and everybody fairly. And that's why this prosecution is wrong, and you should acquit my client, Mr. Biden.
Now, what he was saying is interesting, right? Because concerning the charges that Hunter Biden has against him, like you said, any other person, and just in general, people in general, right? You can commit this crime like 100 times over and you'd never get prosecuted for it. Because the only reason you'd be getting prosecuted for this crime is if you actually committed a crime and harmed someone with the firearm. If there was a greater crime committed in which he harmed someone with the firearm, whether he actually shot someone or maybe he just robbed them, but if a greater crime was committed, that's when this would come into play. The charges that he has now would come into play. Because in a kind of a theoretical sense, right, or hypothetical scenario, let's say Hunter actually robbed somebody, right? I won't say he powed somebody, but we'll just say he robbed somebody. Hunter robbed somebody. He gets caught robbing somebody. So he violated someone with the gun. He committed a crime with the gun. Now they take the gun in for processing as evidence. Obviously, they're going to check to see if the gun is legal and registered in his name. Yes, it's legal and registered in his name. But as they see it's legal and registered in his name, and they go through the form, the application form, and he checked off the fact that I'm not a drug user, I'm not on drugs, I'm not an addict, but there's clear evidence that you were. It's at that point that you would get hit with these additional charges, right, of falsifying documents. Oh, you see how that works? Falsifying your application, right? Saying that you're not on drugs when you were on drugs, right? If the greater crime doesn't happen, you never get prosecuted for lying on the application because there's no way to know that you lied on the application unless you actually committed a crime with the gun, for them to now retroactively go back to make sure that the firearm that you use is on the up and up, to which they find out, yeah, you did own it, you did buy it legally and all that, but there's evidence that shows that you were on drugs and using when you purchased it, and you lied on the form, and all of that is illegal. You weren't supposed to have it and to begin with. That's a charge because you're a user with a firearm, but on top of that, you lied on your form. You falsified your documents, right? And that's very interesting how it's so parallel to the Trump case. Let's get into this very quickly.
The Hunter Biden trial is unfolding after Donald Trump was convicted of 34 felonies in New York City. Emily, can I, first of all, so much is happening over in America. Can I get your reaction to that outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was entirely predictable. It was a jury in Manhattan, so the likelihood that he was going to be convicted, I would have put money on it. I didn't, but if I would have been right, because it just it seemed like, there was also even just some of the evidence that was allowed in. This judge, by the way, actually donated a small amount of money to Democrats, which is a strange thing for a judge to do. It just looked like it was never going in Trump's favor, even though the legal questions about the underlying nature of the prosecution, I think, are extremely serious. That you have the statute of limitations passing, so a prosecutor who ran on a partisan ticket then trumps up the charges, no pun intended, actually, to be felonies when they would typically be misdemeanors because they're in the service or in the furtherance of a separate crime. But Donald Trump was not charged with that underlying crime.
Rewind this one more time. Please listen to what she's saying.
Questions about the underlying nature of the prosecution, I think, are extremely serious. That you have the statute of limitations passing, so a prosecutor who ran on a partisan ticket then trumps up the charges, no pun intended, actually, to be felonies when they would typically be misdemeanors because they're in the service or in the furtherance of a separate crime. But Donald Trump was not charged with that underlying crime, which is a very, very strange thing to do. Even MSNBC was calling this a novel legal theory. Questions were raised in the New York Times about the wisdom of this novel legal theory. So it just, in court, though, seemed as though what had gone through the legal process, what had actually gotten to the jury, was going to go against Trump.
So what she's telling you is that the Trump trial was complete BS. Some can argue that the Hunter Biden case is BS. The big difference between Hunter Biden and Trump, which we're going to get into a little bit more, is that Hunter told on himself so much by way of his memoirs and just his escapades with hot girl Zoe, and then, you being with your deceased brother's wife and whatnot, and the laptop being out there with all these pictures. You told on yourself so egregiously that it's like, how can we not bring charges against you? Because you self-snitched so egregiously, just sloppy. Left your laptop at the computer store with all this stuff on it, all this incriminating evidence on it, right? On top of everything else. Whereas with Trump, that we're going to get into, and if you were paying attention to what she's saying, the falsifying of documents, that initially is just a misdemeanor. It's a slap on the wrist. You know, you pay a fine and you go on about your business. It only becomes a felony if it's in connection to a greater crime, meaning you falsified these documents to commit said greater crime. But as she was stating, he was never charged for a greater crime. He was only charged for falsifying documents. Now, I want to go to the Wikipedia page really quick. And let's read this in closing. Let's read this in closing. Let me pull this up for you guys right now concerning the Trump trial, right? Because I find this really interesting. So now this reads as such, and this is like the Trump hush money trial Wikipedia page. The people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump is a criminal case against Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States. Trump was charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal payments made to an adult film actress, Stormy Daniels, to ensure her silence about a sexual encounter between them, with costs related to the transaction included. The payments totaled $420,000. Now, the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, accused Trump, this is crazy, accused Trump of falsifying these business records with the intent to commit other crimes, violation of federal campaign finance limits, unlawfully influencing the 2016 U.S. presidential election, and tax fraud. Understand, they elevated a misdemeanor crime to a felony crime because they said, well, even though you didn't commit the greater crime that would then make the falsifying documents crime a felony, there was intent to do it. But how can I intend to do something that you didn't charge me for because I didn't do it? And on top of that, the time has already passed. We're in 2024, and you're talking about something that I did allegedly in 2016, 2017. So did I intend to hop in a time machine and go back in time to commit those crimes? You follow what I'm saying? How that's completely and utterly ridiculous. I had to have committed the greater crime in order for you to elevate my falsifying documents to a felony charge. But I didn't do it. Henceforth, I wasn't charged with those crimes, but you elevated a misdemeanor charge to a felony anyways, saying that the intent was there to do it. But how can I intend to do something that I didn't do? And now we're past that time period. But you're saying that's what you were going to do, but I didn't do it. That's why I wasn't charged. But you were going to do it. So we're going to elevate this to a felony charge anyways. That's completely backwards. Once again, the only logic there at that point now is that what Bragg is telling me is that he believes that Trump was somehow going to go back in time. He was going to get into a time machine. He was going to go back in time to commit those crimes because the original intent of falsifying documents were to commit said crimes that he never committed. It's completely upside down and ridiculous. So you see the parallels between Trump's trial and Biden's trial. They're very similar. They're very similar in many regards because essentially for both of them, you know, in any normal setting, for both of them to have gone to trial for this, they would have both had to commit a greater crime. Neither one of them committed the greater crime, but they both ended up going to court, you know, for charges that anybody else would not have went to court for. The only difference between the two being is that, like I stated earlier, Hunter Biden was so reckless and told on himself so egregiously that you sit back and go, okay, how can you not be charged? How can you not be charged? And originally he wasn't charged, but a Trump nominated judge in Delaware is the one who beat the drums to get those charges put on him, right? because once again, the evidence against him was so egregious. It's like, come on, man. Like we know what you did. So how can we not charge you? We're just going to not charge you because you're Biden's son? I don't think so. And now here we are. And we'll see how this all carries on next week when the trial continues. I'm going to keep covering it because, like I said, I find this trial very interesting. I'm just very curious to see how things are going to go. I'm very curious to see how things are going to go. Like I said, I see him getting off because he has home court advantage. Delaware is a blue state from top to bottom. His daddy runs that state. The Biden name is all over that state. His daddy's face, his portrait is literally in the lobby of the courtroom that they walk into every day. I don't see him getting convicted, but it will be interesting to see how this plays out and whether or not he does or doesn't. And with all that being said, that does it for today's stream. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video out on your social media platforms. And also don't forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below. It will be pinned in the comment section once the stream is over. And thank you all for your time. Have a great evening and a safe one. Peace.